we're going to do something a little bit different than what we normally do. And that is due to several time constraints and the fact that we are doing all kinds of different stuff today as we prepare for Michigan to take on Texas. So Locked On Wolverines is kind of a little bit of everywhere right now. Right now we're in Ann Arbor. And if you're watching on video, you're going to get a lot more than you're going to get on audio. But you can see we got Angel Hall, we got all the students and everything. So we're going to preview Michigan and Texas. We're going to hear a little bit from Rece Davis and Desmond Howard and all kinds of stuff here as we get to it on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Very much on the ground right now, navigating Central Campus here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is absolutely nuts right now. But it's what's kind of cool is when you get down here and you get to see, obviously you just see students everywhere. I swear the student body has grown in number since I attended school here, 1999 and through 2000 and then 2004 through 2008. But to see a lot of the people in Burnt Orange, there's a lot of tours and different things happening. So campus is alive. You also have the two sets going up. There's more than two sets because Barstool is also included, but you've got ESPN College GameDay and Fox Big Noon Kickoff. I already went to the College GameDay set, and we talked to Desmond Howard and Rece Davis. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break as we're kind of navigating some things here on the road. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to hear from Desmond Howard. And also I asked Rece Davis what I think Michigan needed to do to come away with a win against Texas this weekend. So stay tuned for that.
You know, one of Ann Arbor's favorite sons. When you look back on what your time here and how it shaped you into the player you became and the man you are today, what stands out to you the most?
Wow. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I had tremendous coaches. I had a great mentor. So I had some really good people around me who helped shape me into the man I became, you know, then but ultimately am right now. So, yeah, I had some great coaches and wonderful mentors. Well, a wonderful mentor in my man, Greg Harden.
So what did you got to see a little bit of the game in person last week. What was your impressions, and how does that kind of do you think it translates at all to a game like this, or do you think Michigan maybe holds some things back? Like, what is your thoughts? Yeah,
well, you know, I don't know this from speaking to any coaches, but if I was a coach and I knew I had the Longhorns coming in here the next week, I'm just not going to show a lot, you know, and then at the same time, you have a new offensive line you're trying to break in, so you want to see what they have. I mean, a lot of coaches, around the country, they're trying to figure out their personnel. You know, there were a lot of games. I mean, you look at the Clemson game versus Georgia. That game was 6-0 at halftime. You know, second half, they ran away with it. You know, the Ohio State game against Akron, I think it was 17-3 at halftime, and they have the best roster in all of college football right now. So I say this because there are a lot of coaches who are still trying to figure out what they have, and Michigan included. Now, you know, obviously, new offensive line and new quarterback. So it's going to take some time, but you don't have a lot of time now because these games are live and they all count. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you spent any time with Sherrone Moore, and what are your impressions of him? How excited are you for this game?
Yeah, I've spent some time with Coach Moore. I think he's just a wonderful individual, great human being, fantastic coach. I love the culture, you know, and the good thing is that, you know, he was on staff with Coach Harbaugh, so he understands what the culture is and how to maintain it and how to sustain it. So that's always a good thing.
We'll talk about the quarterbacks in Michigan throughout two last week, kind of rotating a little bit of them. What did you see from that last week, and do you think that would carry into a bigger game like Texas, or do you think maybe someone like Sherrone Moore would go with one guy.
Yeah, well, during camp, all the talk was who's going to be Michigan's starting quarterback. And I continuously said I think they're going to play 2 against Fresno State because it only makes sense, And what you do is not only do you need to see what you have in both guys live action, but you also put the defense that's going to play against you in a situation where they have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. So I understood, to me, the mentality going into the Fresno State game, and we'll see how this week's practice has gone and how they're going to use the quarterbacks. But I would assume we will see 2 again tomorrow afternoon against the Longhorns.
Would you, Texas coming into town, how would you say the build-up around Michigan is compared to other big-time games at the Big House?
Because you have 2 storied programs in this sport who never really play each other. It's very rare, especially during the regular season. It's as big as it gets to me during the regular season because of the brands, the Longhorns brand and the Wolverines brand.
And to have this game for both programs so early on in the season, obviously bringing you guys here just adds to the hype of it. Yeah. But how do you think the Wolverines specifically could benefit from getting this challenge out of the way early?
I think now I love early challenges. I love, being in competitive games early. When I was here, non-conference games, we played Maryland, UCLA, Notre Dame, teams like that. Then we got into our Big Ten conference schedule. So I'm a big fan of it. I love it.
Do you think this is the biggest non-conference game they've had since kind of your time? Around your tenure, that was about when Florida State, Miami, those types of teams used to come here.
Exactly, Florida State, Miami. Yeah, we played those teams, yeah. So I'm not the historian, so I can't say it's the biggest one, so I can't answer that question, yeah.
What was it like for you kind of living through this team last year as, a former player and just seeing what they did, I guess, bringing the whole Michigan community together?
It was beautiful because they were, we say the team, and you could tell that's what they were all about. It had great veteran leadership from Blake Corum to J.J. McCarthy to Mike Sainristil. You can go on and on and on. So it was a player-led team, and those are the best teams. Any team that I've ever been a part of that was a great team or a championship caliber team, it was a player-led team. They had great veteran leadership. It was fun to watch.
Time for one more.
How much do you feel like it helps Michigan, even though there's a lot of new faces, but a lot of these guys were a part of that Rose Bowl team and the national championship team? How much do you feel like it helps them in a game like this to be able to draw upon those experiences?
Yeah, I think since these guys were around a year ago and they understand the culture and they know what it takes to win in big games like this, I think it helps them tremendously as opposed to having transfers in who don't really know the culture. They've never been in situations like this and they may get a little spooked. So I think it helps them a lot. They understand the language, they understand the moment, and they understand what it takes to go out there and play and perform at a high level.
You mentioned the Michigan offense, but what's the path to victory for Michigan? Obviously, they're considered to be a pretty sizable underdog in this one. I don't think many are giving them a chance, so how do they get there?
Control the ball first, effective in the running game, efficient when the opportunities come in the passing game, stay stubborn with the running game, and they're going to have shorter third downs so they can convert them and stay on the field. That's number one. They got to pay off drives. Texas is a hard team to beat kicking field goals. You got to get in the end zone. So I think they have to run the ball, stay patient with it, shorten the game a little bit, and maybe make Texas press and feel like, geez, Michigan just held the ball 7 minutes, we got to score. Make them impatient, because I do favor Texas in the game. Texas is more proven. Doesn't mean Michigan doesn't have the opportunity to have a great season if they don't have outstanding players. It's all new. Texas is returning quarterback, even though the receivers are new to Texas. They've got experienced receivers who played elsewhere. Michigan's defense is like that. Michigan's defense, a bunch of guys back. So it's not going to be easy for Texas offense. I don't mean to imply that, but I'm just thinking the way football is played these days, you don't often, even with great defenses, see people hold good teams to 13 points or 7 points. So you're going to have to do some things on offense, and I think that's the path to victory for Michigan. Run the ball, be effective in the run, frustrate Texas a little bit, make them impatient when they have it, and then they'll have the opportunity to pull the upset, which sounds crazy for what the longest winning streak in the nation, home field, defending national champions, to pull an upset at home. So this is the type of game and setup that a lot of us will look at and start saying things like that, and then the fellas in the winged helmets come out and say, oh, by the way, we're still Michigan.
All right, so good stuff there from both of them. I don't fully disagree with Rece's assessment, except for he makes the mention here where he says that defenses, you can't expect them to hold, and he sat there for a second, and I just sat there and thought, like, he's going to say 13. He's going to say exactly 13 points. And he said 13 points. Now, why does that matter? It's because that was the exact amount that Michigan held Washington to with its vaunted offense, this offense that everyone thought that Michigan had no shot at being able to really shut down. Now, will Michigan be able to do that exact thing against Texas? I mean, that's easier said than done. Obviously, like he mentions, like they've got all of these receivers, Isaiah Bond, Silas Bolden, Ryan Wingo, lots of different players who can make big plays. Are they still trying to get in sync? I mean, they looked pretty good for the most part against Colorado State. It's going to be different going up against Will Johnson. It's going to be different having some of these defensive linemen kind of potentially, if Michigan has its way, chasing Quinn Ewers around, getting him off his spot and all of that stuff. I think the key more so runs through the defense, but it also equally, the running the ball, holding on to it, all that kind of stuff, I think is equally, that's obviously going to have to be a big part of that as well. All right, we're going to continue on. You got to see a little bit of the ESPN set if you're watching on video. Otherwise, I mean, you heard. You're going to see a little bit of the Fox set as we go there. I don't even know who I'm interviewing yet, but we'll see when we get there. But we'll give you a little bit of an intro. We'll get into that, and we'll talk to some of the Fox guys. We'll come away. We'll give our thoughts, and then we'll give you the final breakdown as Michigan prepares for Texas. Whew, big game. All right, we're going to talk about that all here in just a moment. All right, but before we do, obviously we've got to talk about a couple of different things. First and foremost, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you've got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open for the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn's users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking, frankly, in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. That's why LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to help make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process that much easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, we're going to continue on here in just another moment. But first, college football season is here, and you're going to need to gear up with the coolest Michigan gear in the game. You've heard me talk about it for years. You've seen me wearing it frequently, and that's the gear that I get from Homefield. If you didn't know, Homefield is a premium collegiate apparel company based out of Indianapolis. There's no place I'd rather get my Michigan gear from. They've got a retro modern style, and Homefield scours every school's history to find those unique, amazing designs that you're going to love that really stand out. When you go to your tailgate, everyone's going to notice when you're wearing Homefield. Right now, they're finishing up their Can't Miss Kickoff promotional blitz. They've got cool things like the boxes. I don't know if those are sold out yet. I know that this jacket that I really wanted sold out, and I'm bummed about that. But they had the boxes with a t-shirt, a long sleeve, and a hoodie. They got socks, a koozie, a hat, all kinds of stuff. They even have the coolest bomber jacket I've ever seen, like I said, and unfortunately that's sold out, so I'm keeping my eyes open, hoping that they do another run of those. But go to homefieldapparel.com and use my code GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your first order. That's homefieldapparel.com, promo code GOBLUE24, and you get 15% off of your first order. Homefield Apparel, just the coolest college gear. All right, we are back. We are going to hear a little bit from, I still don't know who we're going to talk to. We are on the Fox set. Lots of stuff to get into as we discuss this huge matchup between Michigan and Texas. Again, it's got to be the biggest game, non-conference, that Michigan has had since you have to go back to Florida State, number one, Miami coming in. We're talking, talking Desmond Howard era Michigan. That's how long ago it's been since Michigan has had matchups like this. So you'll find out just as soon as I do who we got to talk to next here in just a moment.
All right, so Brady, obviously Michigan's got a little bit of a quarterback conundrum. You saw Davis Warren start. Let's start with him. Okay. What did you see out of him? Obviously Michigan was kind of going more with a horizontal pass game. Do you think that was to kind of get him worked in? What were your thoughts on how he played?
It could be a combination of things. I mean, I think the first thing is when you look at kind of spreading the field more horizontally like that, it could be a byproduct of your own personnel. It could be scheme-based, maybe what the defense like Fresno State was presenting you at that point in time, what the quarterback excels at, what he feels comfortable with. So there's a bunch of reasons for it. I think at the end of the day, though, Davis did a really good job. First start, he seems to be the guy that probably feels most comfortable with the system, everything that he's being asked to run, which is why he's going to play the bulk of the amount of shares, unless they're keeping some stuff back, because they didn't want to show it before they have to play Texas in week 2. So that's always that wild card you don't really know about.
Obviously, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but was there something that you saw? Because like you said, you thought he did a pretty good job. Was there something you saw that out of him that you said, like, okay, he can do this? Because there's a lot of naysayers out there.
You know, I think Michigan does a great job. They've always kind of done this. I mean, even going back when I was young, growing up watching guys like Tom Brady, they have tremendous footwork. They know how to kind of run that pro-style system. So, you know, taking the snap from under center, a sense of timing and rhythm, and throwing with anticipation. You can tell he already has good chemistry with Loveland, tight end. So those things were pretty apparent just in one game's time. And so now it just really comes down to him continuing to develop, allowing some people to emerge kind of on the outside. And usually that takes just more game experience playing with guys and having some of those breakout moments where you both become more confident in each other when you're out there in the game field.
People used to always say, I think it kind of changed a little bit in around 2018, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And then I think when Clemson was working in Trevor Lawrence, Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, people backed off that a little bit. How does it affect Michigan by having two guys who are still kind of coming in and having those opportunities in game?
So I think the first thing is when you come to those critical junctures in the game, you know, who is going to be the one to take the snap to run that play? It's going to be Davis Warren. It's going to be Alex Orji. How much of that is dependent upon the flow of the game, what the situation is? You know, 4th and 1, you're probably thinking Alex, let him go run. If it's, you know, a critical 3rd down, 3rd, 7, or 8, probably thinking more Davis Warren. So sometimes that's dictated by that. But I think the most difficult thing to take into account when you have two quarterbacks out there is all other 10 guys have to adjust. So the way the play call comes in, the cadence, what it sounds like when I'm barking at the lineman or trying to change stuff, the timing and rhythm we talked about obviously with Davis Warren as compared to Alex, all those things are different, and so everyone else has to adjust, not even, you know, mentioning the coaching staff as well, and oftentimes that can become a little bit of a burden, and I think the inflection point will be when you're faced with adversity. You know, who do the guys in the locker room look to? Do they look at Alex Orji? Do they look at Davis Warren? Can they make it copacetic where you're looking at both and it's one voice? It's not impossible, but it's harder to make that work.
What do you look at this matchup against Texas? It's kind of funny, I think, because Michigan's kind of won by not necessarily utilizing the quarterback in like a big dynamic way, despite having J.J. McCarthy. At times he didn't really do a lot.
I would argue this, though. When he was asked to step up and make a play, he did. And I think that more than anything else over the past 2 years is what stood out to me. And that's what really Davis Warren and Alex Orji are now tasked with, and even Sharon Moore for that matter, is they need a guy behind center who, he may not be asked to do everything like you see in some other offenses in college football, but when he is called upon to make a play, he has to deliver. JJ did that over the past 2 years, and that's, I think, the tough part for Davis Warren and Alex Orji, and even Sharon Moore. One of those two has to step up and prove that they can in that moment.
What do you think that those guys have to do, or just the Michigan offense? How do they come away with a win against a team like Texas?
they have to control the line of scrimmage. That's the biggest thing. This Texas team, I think they appear to be one of the top teams based on their roster, how they've recruited and developed, and obviously hit the transfer portal hard in college football. My question really is, how physical are they up front? They lost Devontae Sweat, who was mammoth of a man, to the NFL. Same thing with Byron Murphy, who was a really impactful player. Those two interior losses are huge to that defense, and Michigan's a team that's prided itself on running the football in a variety of ways. And I think if they continue to keep their identity on defense, keep this a low-scoring game, they're able to run the football, limit the possessions that yours in Texas has, you're looking at a formula I think really breeds success, I think, for Michigan moving forward, maintaining that identity.
Wink Martindale's defense is obviously...
I was around him in Denver. Wink Martindale is the flipping man. I hope he hears this, because I loved him. Every player who's played for him has loved him. He loves to bring pressure. He's the type of defensive coordinator where he's got a Rolodex of things he's going to do. Every game there's going to be something different. He's going to exploit a weakness in your pass protection or something that he sees. You go back to last week at times, you're seeing them blitz the back. You're seeing some of the field pressures. Those are things that he's always going to have wrinkles in every single week. And so as a quarterback, man, you got to have your head on a swivel, and you got to really be on top of not only going into it, the different game plan you're going to see from him, maybe than what he showed last week, for example, versus Fresno State, but also the adjustments he makes throughout the course of the game.
How difficult is it for a quarterback to go up against all of those different simulated pressures, those different coverages, like the way that he kind of presents things pre-snap? How does that really affect?
It's really hard, because your job as a quarterback is to make good decisions in 2.5 seconds, right? Once that ball is snapped, whatever you were thinking pre-snap, you got to confirm it, or you got to flip what you were thinking and adjust and know where your quick answers are or your solutions are, or be able to make a play with your legs. And that's so much easier said than done. The crowd plays a huge part in that, because it's so loud, and so communication becomes difficult. So you got to get guys on the same page, and that's really hard to do. And talking about, again, seconds before the snap of the football, or even once the play is snapped. So it's difficult, man. Like I said, he throws the kitchen sink at you, and you just got to deal with it.
All right, so that was really good stuff from Brady Quinn. Some of the stuff that I didn't include in here, one of the things that I think was a really salient point by him was that he feels like Michigan really needs to take advantage of putting Donovan Edwards and putting Kalel Mullings on the field at the same time, just because you do have the ability to throw the ball to them. You have a lot of different things that you can do with them. So I do think that is one of the things that Michigan absolutely needs to do. And I would assume that we're going to see that. We have seen it against Penn State last year. They didn't necessarily throw the ball, but I just think that creates more problems. And we've talked so much on this show about when you can use those two guys and include Alex Orji in there, just all of the different things that you can do with that lineup. I mean, even just by having Alex Orji and Donovan Edwards on the field at the same time allowed for that first touchdown to happen against Fresno State. So we're going to wrap things up. We're going to talk about kind of my last thoughts about this game. It is obviously massive. Not many people are giving Michigan a chance, even to some degree me, but I think there is a pathway to win, and we'll talk about a little bit more about what that is here in just a moment. But before we do, I know if you're watching or listening, this is nuts how it just keeps changing videos and sound. Anyway, before we move on, listen, there's so many different events you're going to want to get to. Obviously, you want to get to that Michigan-Texas game tomorrow. And one of the ways that you can get in there is through Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you the only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So many amazing curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They've got their super deal. You got the seat views, so you can view exactly where you're going to be sitting before you buy them. And guess what? They've got a lowest price guarantee with event cancellation protection, job loss protection, all of that kind of stuff. So again, I love the lowest price guarantee because Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price elsewhere. And with the Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download a Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, we're going to move on here in just a moment. But if you've been watching the show on YouTube, you wouldn't notice this if you listened. But if you watch, you'll notice that behind me, I've got a little cool scoreboard thing. It's kind of similar to what Joel Klatt used to have, but this one's Michigan branded, and it's got all kinds of amazing things, and this is Team Ticker. Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign for college sports fans. Team Ticker is a 1.5 by 2 foot wall sign featuring the Block M logo that has a cool retro-looking LED display. The display is updated daily with fresh content, such as a countdown to the next game, schedule, standings, stats, news. It's super fun and a great way to stay connected to Michigan Wolverines sports right now. They're going into Michigan softball, but I mean, it had a countdown to the Texas game. It had rankings, had all kinds of stuff. It's a combination of design and function that gives you an entertaining, creative way to display your team pride while providing a unique connection to your favorite team. Whether it's football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, soccer, softball, all of that stuff, Team Ticker has you covered. Never miss a game as the high-tech retro display provides a countdown to the next big game as well as daily updates of the latest team news, stats, schedules, standings, and much more. Using the content control section of the mobile app allows you to control the sports you see, and the remote control function allows you to jump directly to any section of the content. Each sign is officially licensed, meeting high-quality standards, and is assembled by hand in the U.S. and also it plays sound. One day I was just sitting there watching TV and the Victors started playing, and I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. Team Ticker is an ultimate addition to your Michigan Wolverines sports collection. Once you hang it on your wall, it's going to be the talk of all your Michigan fans, fellow Michigan fans. Gotten questions from a lot of you already. If you're looking for that one eye-catching item to showcase your team pride or a gift for that special Wolverines fan, go to teamticker.com and pick up your Team Ticker today. Team Ticker is also offering a one-of-a-kind sports sign, and you can get it at teamticker.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. And you're going to receive that $50 off of your Team Ticker purchase. All right, this is our On the Road show. I know this is much different than what we are accustomed to, but just kind of given how this day snuck up on me. I did not realize that it was going to be jam-packed from the moment I opened my eyes, and that I was going to have to be in Ann Arbor early. So let's finish out. Let's discuss what Michigan needs to do to come away with a win against Texas, and then my final prediction here. So, obviously, this is going to be an easier said than done type of scenario. Now, that said, I think that Michigan has a lot working in its favor, and I think that that's being overlooked, right? People are looking at the Texas offense and saying that's the best unit on the field. I think it's a very good offense. I think that the Michigan defense is going to be the best unit on the field. Even if they didn't show you everything you wanted to see in week 1 against Fresno State, I don't think that they necessarily needed to. We have seen Michigan kind of played down a little bit to competition when it's essentially felt like it needed to just kind of get out of there with a win, and it's a little bit different when you come on the other end. You heard everything that Brady Quinn said about Wink Martindale, and I mean, he just beamed the moment I mentioned Wink Martindale. I didn't even ask a question yet. He's like, love that dude. Like, what that guy brings to the table is next level. I understand that Steve Sarkisian, as an offensive tactician, is also next level, but I would give the edge generally to the guy that's seen every offense under the sun, and has generally done a really good job of handling those, right? His acolytes have mostly done a good job. Obviously, in the NFL, they gave up his acolyte gave up 27 points to a very powerful Kansas City Chiefs team with Patrick Mahomes. So, yes, they can be gotten. Some breakdowns, some bad play that can change things in a hurry. I don't really expect that. That is the star-studded side of the ball. They need to play up to their capability. Like we said earlier, there's the idea of what they were able to do against Washington, holding Washington to 13 points. That's a tall ask, obviously. That was the best offense that Michigan had faced all year, and they limited them in a way that they limited a lot of other teams throughout the season. You can't necessarily ask that against the Texas offense. One of the ways you do that is by playing ball control, which Michigan has done an excellent job of doing each of the last 3 years. They did it other years. 2018, Sharon's first year as the tight ends coach, they also did it then. So that is something that they can absolutely do as well, I think, this year, especially because, as mentioned, those two defensive tackles aren't there for Texas this year like they were last year. 152 yards, I believe, on the ground from Colorado State last week. Colorado State is more of a passing offense, right? They want to get the ball to Torrey Horton. And they weren't able to do that, but they were able to run the ball to some degree. Over 100 yards rushing for their primary back. Michigan, I think, really needs to lean on whoever the hot hand is. I know a lot of you are going to say, that needs to be Kalel. Well, if Donovan Edwards comes out, snap one, does what he did against Washington, that's a tall ask. But let's say that happens. Then you just kind of got to keep feeding the hot hand, which is what Tony Alford had said on Wednesday was the thought process of keeping Kalel in there late, is because he had the hot hand. You want to ride it. So they need to find whatever they can find in terms of running the football, creating positive third down and distances, and being able to drive the field. The blueprint is what we saw at the end of the game last week. Being able to have drives like that, 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives, eat up a lot of clock, keep that Texas offense on the sidelines. That's what you've got to do in order to win a game like this. And then defensively, you just got to play your brand. Right? This is going to be a situation where both teams are trying to force you to play their brand of football. Texas wants to win in a shootout, right? They are a former Big 12 team. They still have that DNA. As much as people say, like, hey, they want to be Alabama and they're going to, you're seeing them do all this. Listen, they're a little bit newer to this, right? Texas is essentially going into its Michigan 2022 year. Obviously, that worked out really well for Michigan up until that TCU game. But it's a matter of, can you force your style of football on the other team? If Michigan can force its style of football onto Texas has a hard time getting in the end zone, Michigan's got a really good shot of winning. I do feel like we will see more of these quarterbacks throwing downfield than what we saw in week 1. And I feel like we're going to see it to varying success. So Michigan's also going to have to withstand any Texas runs, and it's going to have to withstand any droughts that it has. That's going to be incumbent upon the defense to figure out how it can get the ball back to the offense, whether it be through forcing 3 and outs, through forcing 6 and outs or whatever, punts essentially, or if it's through forcing turnovers. Those are going to be the big key things for this Michigan defense as it needs to supplement the offense, and Michigan needs to not settle for field goals. You can get field goals. You learned that last week. You can trust in Dominic Zavada's leg, but the less that you rely on that, the more you get into the end zone, the better chances you have. I think everyone's writing Michigan off. I think the team sees that. I think they hear it. I think they're well aware that no one thinks that they're going to win. How often do you see a national champion get counted out the way that they have? I didn't put any of the Chris Fowler interview in this. Not Chris Fowler, Rece Davis, get caught up on the college game day stuff. I didn't put any of the Rece Davis interview in this, but he had even said, like, he's picking Texas to win. He feels like they're the more established team by virtue of having the quarterback, the returning quarterback, and I think that should not be underestimated. But this is a Michigan team. The majority of these players have been here before. The majority of these players have national championship rings. They know what it takes. And I don't think that should be counted out either. If you can get Quinn Ewers off his spot, which is what Wink Martindale certainly is going to be doing, that can change things in a hurry. So what do I think is going to happen? I honestly don't have any idea. I don't think we got any real answers in week 1, because I don't think week 1 is necessarily indicative of what Michigan is as a team this year. Now, if it ends up being that, yes, we could be in for a very long season this year. I don't think that that's what the case is. I think that they probably spent a lot more time prepping for this Texas game than they had Fresno State. I think that you're going to see a lot of different things. It's going to be a matter of execution mixed with game plan, all of that stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. That said, I'm going to predict, I have a hard time saying that Texas is going to be completely shut down, but I also have a hard time saying that Michigan is going to score a lot because the offense really didn't look that great. This should be technically a better defense that they're going up against, but Fresno State, again, is nothing to scoff at. That said, I'm going to go with Texas winning a close one right now at 21-17. I hope to be wrong. For anyone who gets mad at my prediction, know that I've been constantly predicting Michigan to lose these big games for the most part, if I do make a prediction at all. But that's what I'm going to go with, and hope that I'm wrong on that one. So anyway, we're on the highway now. Don't try this at home. I think I'm technically breaking the law. But anyway, thanks for watching this. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again. Remember, watch there's going to be a postcast from Jake Riepma right after the game. You can catch that. If Michigan wins, we'll be back probably over the weekend. If not, we'll talk to you Monday. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.